Here I stand as a strong black man, having done all I can to please my fellow man. I don't understand why that knife is in your hand. After doing all I can as a strong black man, I'm gonna take my stand as a black man. I will do the best that I can as a black man. I stand on my own as a black man. I'm gonna sing my song.
Welcome back to another episode of Black Men Heal. Say how you feel, brother. And I am here with social worker extraordinaire and black man, Jarel. Say what's up, Jarel.
What's up, everybody? Yep, we back again, doing what we do.
So what we chopping it up about today?
Yeah, so today we're going to be discussing the role of the black man in the homes and how it's been shaped, distorted, how to heal from that, how to move forward with it. Because I think that the role of the black man has evolved and changed over the years. And we know that, you know, in some beliefs and cultures, the man is the center of the household, and how does that affect the black community, and what does it look like today? We can't dive into this conversation without obviously talking about the past and how the past shaped this, and then from there we can talk about the present day, and then how to, you know, kind of move forward and how to actually heal from it. But yeah, I just want to kind of kick off the conversation and kind of just talk a little bit about how slavery kind of disrupted the black family and what that looked like. Because we know that in that era that, you know, families were created obviously to multiply, because black people were treated as property and not as actual humans. And then so most times they were traded off to different plantations and slave owners and whatnot. So there wasn't really a foundation of family. So men were not always present with their wives, or if back then they probably didn't even really have wives, but with their wives and their children. So that kind of disrupted the family dynamics as a whole.
Absolutely.
And that kind of set kind of like the tone for like the black father in the household. So I kind of want to start off with that, and then we can kind of go from there.
Yes, because it catapulted the black woman into the role of leadership, right? Because she was still leading the family. They emasculated the black man by breaking him, by not only raping him, but beating him in front of his wife, or raping his wife in front of him. Yep. You know, so a lot of things happen to emasculate the black man and to also distort his character and basically take full control of him.
Yes. And
so as a result of that, we morphed into, I'll say like the 60s, 70s, where slavery in its former sense was no longer, but enslaving the mind still existed. And in order for any black woman to receive any benefits or anything like that, the black man could not be present in the home. So there was nothing available to build the black family as a whole. I'm only going to help you, black woman, and your kids if no man is around.
And then that's when the incarceration rates kind of went up as well. Then that Jim Crow era-ish, civil rights era, we saw more and more black men going to jail, or because they had to do things to help provide under the table and things like that. And that kind of added to that dynamic. of them not even being in the homes and not actually being present and knowing how to lead a household or know how to lead women or know how to lead children in that sense too.
Yeah, so if we talk about that, then we can talk about how the drugs and everything became prevalent in our communities. We didn't bring them there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely not. No.
And so then, it was just all by design to keep us self-contained. Yep. And I still say desegregation hurt us.
Yes.
If we wanted to be separate but equal.
Yes.
We never wanted to intermingle with because look at Black Wall Street. We had everything we needed. We were thriving. And when they saw how much we could thrive and they couldn't control it, they bombed it.
Yep.
They destroyed it. And with that comes that same mentality. So post-traumatic slavery disorder is a real thing.
Yes, it is.
And we are genetically predisposed to anxiety, depression, and any of those other things that can be inflicted upon us. Some of us are hardwired with it already.
Yeah.
As a result of who we are related to, who are the intergenerational trauma. Where did it come from? Slaves.
Yes.
I'm 86% African. So with that comes my fight, because I don't back down, or anything like that, my strength and all of that. But also in that is anxiety. The thing with the Black man, they were also taught not to deal with that. Because if you deal with any of your emotions, if you deal with anything that you're going through, then you're not a Black man. Mm-hmm. And as the Black woman, we're guilty of it. We're guilty of exacerbating that condition, because you're battling in the streets. Maybe you're post-incarceration. Maybe you have some other things going on. But if you're not bringing into this home what I feel like you should be bringing into this home,
right,
then I'm going to start nagging.
Yeah.
Whether it seems like it's nagging or not. But my definition of nagging is timing and tone.
Fair.
So certain things that you can say under those circumstances, how you say it, your tone and your timing has a lot to do with it. So we are guilty. And when I say we, Black women are guilty of beating the Black man down.
Yeah.
Even though he's beat down enough with society, it's hard for him to get a job. It's hard for him to provide. Yeah. He didn't have a choice in all of these kids. Did he sit down and say, I want you to have a baby? Well, we both had sex and now I'm pregnant and I'm having a baby. But did you have a choice in it? Because the woman, if she want to have it, she gonna have it.
Right.
And now she catapults you into a system if you don't do what she say.
Yeah.
Or if you're going to live in a home, if we're talking about systemic racism or institutionalized racism, if you're going to be in this home and you got me pregnant, then I got to turn in a lot of stuff about you, and things of that nature. So it just really, really makes it hard for the Black man to be a family man.
Yeah, and I think, to your point, there is a lot of pressure when it comes to being a man, especially a Black man. And I think it's not talked enough about. And how can there be balance in it? Like, we understand that, a man directly the head of the household is supposed to quote unquote provide and things like that. But also, he's human. He cannot do everything at all times. And there just needs to be more communication and more conversations around, what does that balance look like? And then be more open and honest about it. Because in order for him to lead, he has to be going back to the mentality part. He has to be mentally there and feel supported by the family in order to do those things. Not pressure, because I think that's what people do. Not pressure to do these things, but support it. Okay, I will go to work and I will pay the bills or whatever it needs to be. And then while you do X, Y, Z. And because I'm not married, but I think that there needs to be the partnership pieces in here. Because he could still, once again, lead a household, But I think there needs to be support systems in place as well in order for him to mentally be there to do those things. Because I think that the emasculation of men, how society views black men as a whole, how black women view black men as a whole. There's a lot of things that's going on in a man's head, and how can he do all this stuff, and he gets frustrated, and then he doesn't know how to articulate it, because it goes back to one of our previous episodes about having emotion like intelligence to like express how you feel and whatnot, and then keeping all that things bottled up, and that affects the way that someone can think and can blur their mindset on, I don't want to lead this family in the way that I should do it. And they kind of take a step back, or they tap out, or they go do other things. And then now, to your point about black women nagging and whatnot, like, you're not doing X, Y, Z. And in his head, he's like, I'm doing everything that I can possibly do to even run this family. And you're telling me that I'm not doing anything.
And it's still not enough.
And right, it's not enough. And it's like, but like, which is why I feel like there needs to be a balance in the support on both ends.
I was married. I'm a widow. And the way that any relationship, but especially a marriage, should be, that has to be discussed between those two individuals.
Yes.
People have these preconceived notions of what gender roles is. This is what the man of the house should do. This is what the woman of the house should do. Hell, if you a better cook.
You cook.
You know, if you can clean better than me, clean.
Yep.
You know, or whatever. But those conversations have to be had. And I think the roles have to be discussed.
Yeah.
Like, how are we going to run this household? You know, because a lot of men are in shame for being stay-at-home dads. They're being shamed. When the woman is making the most money, maybe he's better with the kids. Maybe she makes more money and he wants to let her build her career first. So you go ahead and build your career. Doesn't mean that he's lazy, that he's less than a man because he's at home. He could just very well say, look, I can get a job. I'm a handyman or whatever. If you need to build this career, you go ahead and build the career. I'll stay home with the kids until your career takes off. We don't know what's discussed between those individuals, if anything. But society will take a look at situations and then try to compartmentalize them or characterize the individuals involved in it when it's not your life.
Right.
But as a result of that, a man or a woman will try to live up to society's expectations, and it causes a lot of problems.
So yeah, with that, let's unpack the traditional roles in the household, and kind of talk about the narrative of like being a provider and a protector in the house, and then the cultural pressures of it all. Because we know that when it comes to Black men, you know, financial stability is very important, and then how that is seen sometimes as the only value that men bring to the table and to bring to the household. That, and being the protector of it all, and how our culture kind of builds this norm of, you know, you don't need to cry or you need to hold things in, which leads to, once again, to that emotional suppression of it all. And it can be, once again, the pressure of having the pressure of having all of these external forces on the man could be a lot, and which can, once again, kind of immobilize them from being, you know, the head of a household and whatnot. So, what are your thoughts about that? And then I have another kind of follow-up question with that.
I feel that you're absolutely right. Women will look at men as having the role of, you must provide.
Yeah.
You must provide. I'm expecting you to bring home the bacon and the bread, you know, and I just take that and do what I need to run the house, but it's up to you. And it's interesting when you were saying that, because that's kind of how I feel, but not in a derogatory fashion. Mm-hmm. But I just feel like, okay, I have this agency that I'm running, even when I was married, but speaking now with the gentleman that I have, I don't worry about money or none of that stuff. Right. If they pull the funding tomorrow, I'm not going to worry about if my rent's going to be paid at my house or if the bills are going to be paid at my house, because I know that he can take care of it.
Right.
You know, so at the same time, there are men out there who cannot. And that is the problem, because when they can and they do, then we should have no problem jumping in when they can't.
Right.
Now, it's a difference between if someone can't and if they won't.
Right.
It's a big difference between that, because we have a lot of people who just will not take care of their kids, will not take,
Correct.
or that's a form of domestic violence also, keeping your wife cash poor. Like, you have all of this money and stuff that you're making, but you only give her enough to survive, barely, or you dangle it as a carrot for her to do this, and this.
Right.
Otherwise, you're not going to do it. So I feel like there are layers to that. But we do put a lot of pressure on our men to make sure they provide. And when you take it into the context of hustling, which we talked about before, men that make that kind of money, they want to lavish, give their woman lavish things. Yeah. Oh yeah, they buy all kinds of stuff, and but a woman shouldn't have an expectation like, oh, I have seen, even bringing it modern day, bringing it current. I have seen reels and stories where it was a girl's birthday or whatever, and this guy went out with her, and she expected him to drop $1,500 for the whole table. And he was like, I ain't dating the whole table. I'm dating you. I'll buy your drink. I'm not getting ready to pay for all of this. That's when a conversation should have been had. She had an expectation that he wasn't ready to deliver on, and why should he pay for all of your friends' stuff? Maybe that's what someone did with you in the past. Maybe they was a drug dealer, maybe they was a hustler, maybe they made six figures. Who knows where that notion came from? But it is rude and disrespectful for you to not have had this conversation like, hey, we're going out for my birthday and I'm going to bring 10 friends. Do you got it?
Yeah.
Then to get there when the check come and just say, oh, everybody looking at him.
Like, oh, and he's not expecting to do this. I mean, to your point, like, no. Like, I'm dating you, and you're the only person who I am paying for, and also it's your birthday, not the rest of the table's birthday.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair thing, and I'm like you said, I think everyone's expectations should be brought up front versus at the last minute. Same thing with boundaries. Your boundaries should also be brought up to the forefront as well, on what you will allow, what you won't allow, and what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do.
I have a saying, get in their head before you get in their bed, because
that's one.
Once you start having sex and all of this other stuff, because we have to admit physical attraction is the first thing. It could be the smartest person in the room, 6 digits, good at everything and have everything else. But if I'm not physically attracted to you, then there's no attraction.
Right.
That's initially, when you first start dating. When you get older, I tell my friends, don't be mad at me if you see me with a man with a prosthetic arm. Don't worry about what's going on over here, because once you mature, you're not looking at the same things. The attraction may be different.
Right.
You're attracted to stability. You're attracted to compassion, and those other things. But initially, you're attracted to looks.
Yes.
And then with that, sex.
Yes.
Right. And if the sex is good, then, and the looks are good, you don't get into these type of conversations where we're talking about until way later down the road, almost until it's a problem.
Yeah, it will be a problem.
Yeah, like, okay, it's a problem now. So now I'm really looking at, you ain't shit, you ain't got shit, you don't do shit. And it's like, but he's looking like,
I was doing the same thing I've been doing.
I ain't never had shit then, because I'm the same.
I was the same person I was when you met me. And it's like,
exactly.
Because sex will blow your mind a lot of times, and you get stuck in it. You'll know all the red flags of things and whatnot, and you kind of go down that rabbit hole of, I didn't see the signs. You did. You just
red flags don't turn white or green. They red, and they stay red, but you will overlook them. They
will. Unless you acknowledge the red flags at first and they're willing to change and stuff, then they can, maybe turn green, maybe.
So I think we need to try to understand what type of black man we're in a relationship with, because a lot of black men, they want to provide for their families.
They do, always.
Yeah, they
Always.
want to provide for their families. They want to be in that leadership role. They want to see their family happy. They'll sacrifice themselves to make sure the family is happy. And I just don't think it's fair when we as Black women beat them down over one incident. Like, he could have been doing fine for the last 5 years, but that one downfall, now he just ain't shit, you know, or whatever. And it's like, no, you can't put a blanket statement over them. And we beat him up. We beat him down. And it's not fair. And
yeah, it's not fair. And I kind of wanted to go back because you said something that kind of triggered me. I don't remember what it was, but you said something, not triggered in a bad way, triggered a thought about conversations that I have with my friends about men in general, that men do things to impress other men. And I remember what it was. You said about showing off. Men like to show off things and whatnot. And I think a form of providing is showing off. Like, I can protect my family. I'm gonna take it way back. I don't know if cavemen actually even existed or whatever, but we're gonna assume that they did for the sake of this conversation.
Okay.
That, you know, I'm assuming in my head that, like, back then they had to fight off animals and whatever they needed to do. And I'm assuming that a man was probably the strongest. In order to do that, you had to protect your family from whatever creatures and stuff like this. This could be definitely coming from the movie Croods, animated TV, animated movie.
I'm thinking about the Flintstones, but go
that
ahead.
too. We can do that too. Where they had to protect their family because they didn't have all the things. So in order for you to be a man, it was about the protection. It was about strength and whatnot. And I think bringing it back now to our time now, I think showing that fact that you can provide for your family, that you can protect your family, shows that, like, I am a man. I am this. I can do these things that defines what a man is supposed to do, and they're not doing it for the satisfaction of themselves. They're doing it for the satisfaction of everybody else to kind of see. Like, hey, don't come over here because I will protect my family. I have the money to provide for my family,
and I'm gonna do what I need to do, by any means necessary.
Any means necessary. I mean, and I think that mentality, I mean, it could be a good thing, but also a bad thing at the same time, because it can be damaging.
And very damaging. They can lose their life, take someone's life. They can lose their life. You know, and it's interesting with that protective factor in my current relationship. And a lot of times we have preconceived notions from other relationships, especially when we get older. Yes. My husband was quite different in mentality than my gentleman that I have now. And my husband was, oh, let's go for it. You know, you did something to my wife, I got you 10 toes down. We both going down then, you know, or whatever. And I'm going to have his back, you know. And there was a situation, and my gentleman handled it differently. And so I felt some type of way, like, oh, so you just wasn't going to say nothing, huh? You just going to stand there or whatever. He said, no, it wasn't that. I was not afraid. Nor was I just being punked. The way that I would retaliate, I would go to prison. Yeah. So he was like, I told you to come on, because if you would have kept going and then that escalated, I would have had to do something. Yes. And what I was going to do would put me in prison. Right. So just come on. Right. It's simple as that. Just get in the car. So then I was like, oh, well, I guess once you explained it like that, you know, because he was like, yeah, I could have let you go and go and go and go. And then if it would have escalated, because I was having some words with some guy about something. I don't even remember what it was. Yeah. But it was enough for me to have something to say. Yeah. But that's also a form of protection in a way, because it's like, I'm protecting you and protecting me by telling you we need to go. Because realizing the consequences of actions and realizing that some things, you know, you have to choose your battles wisely, it's still a form of protection. I mean, at the moment, a woman may not see it or a person may not see that, but at the and I didn't. And I was mad, and I talked about his ass, like, oh, or whatever.
But it's like, no, you don't know what could have happened. That man could have put out a weapon and harmed y'all. Anything could have happened. But it's like,
and that was his point. Like, I got a weapon, and if I feel like he's endangering your life or going to or mine, I'm gonna have to shoot him.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's why I told you to just get in the car.
Yeah, just let's go.
Yeah. So I was like, okay. And I did listen to him, but I was mad about it because I'm like, let's go.
Because I think a lot of, once again, social media plays a large factor in then how society views masculinity and femininity a lot. But a lot of women say like, oh, if our man cannot protect me if somebody's doing something to me, then he's a punk. He's this, that, and the third. And it's kind of like, not necessarily, because you should know your man one way or another. You should know if your man is a fighter. You should know if your man is a shooter. You should know if your man is not any of those things. He could be a talker. He could be someone that's like, listen, we didn't mean nothing. Let's go. Let's just go about our way and whatnot. You should know how your man retaliates to certain situations or whatnot. But all is still a form of protection. In my mind, whether that means physically or mentally or just emotionally, I think that it all is a form of protection.
Conversations had to be had. I could have easily walked away and was like, oh, he just let us get punked, and had my lips all tight on the whole ride home and never say anything. And then I would have this notion in my mind, not even understanding his rationale.
Yes.
So you do have to talk things through too.
And then with that, next question is like, who do you think taught men how to be a man in the home? And then do you think they were taught by love or survival?
It depends on the man because both exist. Some households had love and survival combined because as a black man, you got to survive every day, regardless. But that survival could have been in a loving environment where the household is stable. The man is making the money and everything. And so he has time to show real love. The woman is understanding. She understands her role. She understands who she's with. So there's a lot of love in the air. Then there are households where there is a lot of dysfunction.
Yes.
And so the love looks very different. You got to look for the love. It's like, I love you. Well, you don't act like it, or whatever. And so you don't see or feel the love. It's if I'm doing what I'm supposed to do in this house, I'm out here surviving every day, bringing money in and putting food on the table. That means I love you, damn it.
Right.
It ain't none of the come here, let me hug you. We don't have family time. Let me hug the kids and before I go to work or nothing. It's just like I'm going to work and I'm coming back home. And as long as there's food on this table and the lights work, I love you.
Right. And I think a lot of, I don't want to stereotype or whatever, but I feel like a lot of men were taught in survival mode. And doing what they have to do just to survive.
Absolutely.
Not many were taught the love pieces because of that hard, stoic lifestyle that the pressures that men were put on. It's like, like you said, a point, like my love, I'm showing you love by having a roof over your head and putting food on the table. You don't need that. He said, men don't hug, like get up. Mm-hmm. You don't get up, the 3-year-old boy, like get up, stop crying, all that good stuff. All that is survival
like
techniques.
You suck.
Right, and not made out of love. But I think men have to grow to learn how to love, which is where partnership comes in, where women come in and then they teach them how to love. Mm-hmm. And it's a whole thing of like, you are hard. It's like, we got to pull back all these layers of like, you trying to live in survival mode to showing you like, it's okay for you to love. Like, it's okay for you to hold your child. It's okay for you to love up on people and appreciate them.
Women have to know how to do that too. Because we will say, oh, you so hard. You don't show any feelings and you don't show any emotion or whatever. And then, in the heat of an argument or something, you show some emotion like, you you a punk. Look at you sitting up. And it's like, okay, what you want me to be? You want me to show this emotion and cry a little bit?
Or not.
Or not.
Yeah.
So we're, very guilty of wanting something, but not knowing how to recognize it for what it is, not knowing how to nurture it, and sometimes not knowing how to receive it.
Mm-hmm.
There was a thing out about love languages.
Yeah.
Someone's love language might look different than someone else's love language.
And it will look different than somebody else's love language.
Yeah, so just because I don't bring you flowers and candy and show up at your job with a box of chocolates don't mean I don't love you.
Right.
That's just not my love language.
And you have to learn someone's love language. You have to love them in their love language is what that's supposed to be. I think people think that it's the other way around. It's like, that's not how. That's not how
you make adaptations.
Works.
It's accepting them for who they are.
Yeah.
But you have to get to know who they are.
Yes.
And again, so get in their head before you get in their bed. Know who you're dealing with. Know what you're dealing with so you know how to deal with it.
Yeah, and I think that also goes to the fact that you need to like the person that you're also with. I think a lot of people don't, which also causes issues with that. But I'm not gonna I digress with that one. But I think for me, I think that I grew up. No one taught me how to be a man. Let's just say that. Yes, I lived with my father. Yes, I lived with my mother. We are in the same household. Yes. So it's like, yeah, I could watch my dad do whatever he did for our family and whatnot. But it not necessarily was taught how to be a man. Not saying my father was not. My father was a good father, but
I understand exactly what you're saying.
But it's like he did not teach me how to be a man.
You became a product of the environment by observation.
Yes,
more so than this is what you do.
Yes,
and how you do it.
Because there's all my friends, their fathers are in the house, and I saw how all of their fathers, behaved and treated their family members and everything like that. I saw all of that. And I didn't want to be any of them. I was like, I want to be my own version of what this is. And I think that like, even growing up and then being in like mentorship programs and things like that and seeing black men, have try to come up and then try to be a father figure to me. I'm kind of like, I don't really need a father figure from any of you. I have a father. I know how to be a man. And my definition of what a man is none of y'all definition of what a man is, because I want to be able to love. I don't want to have to live off the survival how I was taught is the survival things like, my parents did what they had to do. My dad did what he had to do to make sure that he provided for his family. So it's kind of like, I don't want to just live off of survival. I want to live off of love and have an emotional intelligence that I need to do. Hence why I went to social work. Hence why a lot of my work and things that I do surround around masculinity, black masculinity, and black men in general. Because I'm like, I want to be a different type of man than what I have seen growing up. And I define what that is. And then especially when it comes to, the gay community, like I know how to, everyone thinks that, you need to be this type of, you need to be masculine. No, not masculinity is something, masculinity and femininity is what we kind of created as humans to divide, sexuality, I guess, in a sense. And I'm
you
not
just gotta be who you are, right?
Yeah, I don't attribute to any of those things. I don't attribute to any of those things because in order for us to even be humans, you have to be part male and part female. And so it's like I can be anybody who I want. I can be anybody. So my definition of what a man is what I defined it to be, and what it may look like. I can do both gender roles if I wanted to. I can provide, I can protect, I can lead, I can follow. I could do all the things because the intersectionalities that I have doesn't just define one little thing. Like, oh, you need to be a man. Being a man is having the emotional intelligence to know that like I'm feeling something and I don't like it and I can articulate that to somebody. Being a man to me is knowing that like, hey, I don't have the financial stability right now and I may need help. Okay, so asking for help when needed. I think that like being a man is also like defining whatever religion that I want to be a part of, and then forming that around who I want to be. So I mean, I think it's for me just a bunch of different intersectionalities that come together, and I think that a lot of men don't sit down with themselves long enough to even know who they are as a person, to even tell me what a man is.
Because they had to figure it out as they went along. They didn't. No one created this plan. That's why I hear people say, well, when they get 18, they're going to get out. Well, did you prepare them to get out?
Right.
Like,
you don't
they
know how
don't
to do
even
anything.
know.
They can't cook. They don't know how to clean. They don't know how to fold their own clothes. They don't know how to do any of this.
What is a W-2?
Right.
What are income taxes? How do I save money on my taxes?
Before
all of that.
Before you even teach them how to be a man, probably need to teach them how to be a person and be an adult. And then that falls into being a man or a woman. It's like, I don't know. Yeah, because they don't even know who they are as individuals.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's a lot of things. So with that, to kind of wrap up, how can we redefine the black man in the home? What does that look like, in a sense? Because is it emotional intelligence? Is it the healthy partnership, spirituality? Is it being present over provision? Like what does that look like?
I think it's all of it. I think, and the reason why I say that, because for me in a relationship, I want to be stimulated physically, mentally, spiritually, financially, and emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
By myself, I need that. So I definitely need some contributing factors to that from someone that I'm in a relationship with.
Right.
Not that I need you to take care of me, but are you at the same level?
Yeah, equally yoked.
Yeah, equally yoked. Then we can come together.
Yes.
Because if we start out, and I don't mean equal, you got 10,000 in the bank and I got 10,000 in the bank.
Right. No,
but the mindset of it,
yes.
Like, do you even believe that it's a thing? How is the credit? Can we build together?
Yes.
Because love grows. Even when you get married, and my stepmother told me that, like, you think you're in love, you ain't in love, you're going to see. And I'm like, how can you say that? Like, right before my wedding, I am in love, I wouldn't be marrying him. But she was right.
Mm-hmm.
Love grows.
Yes.
You don't know that person for real, until that ink dry on that paper, or you're in a relationship. Like right now, I'm in a relationship, cohabitating. We have things, we operate like a husband and wife.
Right.
And, it's just over time you get to know each other. See that, and I think it's more complex cohabitating than it is having that piece of paper. Mm-hmm. Because with that piece of paper, the government has set an expectation of what should be happening.
Right.
Right. When you're cohabitating, you set the expectation without the piece of paper. So if we're not together tomorrow and we built this, what does that look like? Where we're not together tomorrow and we're married, they're going to dictate what it looked like.
Yeah.
Right? We have to dictate what it looks like. And so we have done a great job of saying who's going to do what, where, how, even with end of life stuff. We know that, it's like documented. But I just feel like communication is key.
Always.
The criticism, because you're going to have it, but it is built off of the relationship and not whether we go together or not. How stable is the relationship? Mm-hmm. Where are we at in the relationship? Because that matters. Tone matters and timing matters.
Yes. Regardless
of what you're talking about. If our relationship is not good or we're in the midst of a problem, I'm not going to receive your criticism as constructive. I'm going to think you're tearing me down.
True.
And so you have to look at where you're at in a relationship, the timing. If I just lost my job, when I'm coming home and tell you that, but I had bought whatever 2 weeks, and now it's not the time to say, well, I told you shouldn't have bought that. So, because we could have used that money, because it's too late.
Right. Now you just upset me.
Exactly. So don't play in their face. Don't insult someone's intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And know your relationship status. And I don't mean you're my girlfriend, I'm your boyfriend, or we're boyfriends, or I'm not talking about that type of status. Where is the meter on your relationship as far as good or bad?
Right.
Where y'all at? Because if you have that conversation at the wrong time, constructive criticism at the wrong time, or even bringing us some ideas. I want to go to the Bahamas. Okay, well, I barely scraped up this money for the light bill.
Right.
Well, you only live once. Yeah, but we're going to come back and it's going to be dark, or whatever. If we take this money, so communication is key.
Yeah.
How you show love is key.
Yes.
You can't buy love. Love is shown.
Yes.
It's not spoken. It's shown by your actions.
Yeah.
How you receive stuff. Anybody wants to be appreciated.
Right.
But especially black men. But black men aren't used to receiving that.
Mm-hmm.
When I tell my gentlemen all the time, like, I really appreciate you. I appreciate the sacrifices. And I post it on social media, be like, hey, he makes a lot of sacrifices to make sure we are good in this house.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate that. And he's so uncomfortable he just be like, okay. And I'm like, just okay.
Yeah.
And I talk to him about that, like, that don't make you feel some type of way. He'd be like, okay, thank you. And just move on, because he's not even used to receiving acknowledgement for what he does. Yeah. He was like, I just do what I do. Yeah, but you don't have to do it.
Yes.
And I'm trying to acknowledge that you don't have to do it. We're not married. LJ is not your son.
Mm-hmm.
And hell, your daughter is grown.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to do nothing for none of us.
Right.
I'm just acknowledging the fact that you do.
Right.
But it's hard for him to receive it.
Yeah. It's hard. I mean, I think I'm in similar. But I have, once again, the emotional intelligence in me is growing. It's learning to accept it.
Mm-hmm.
Because what happens if someone gives me a compliment in the past, I would rebuttal it. Oh, you look nice. Oh, well, I don't feel like it, or whatever. I mean, or something's wrong with my shirt, or something's wrong with my pants, or I didn't get a haircut, or whatever. It's like, it's okay just to say thank you.
Uh-huh.
It's okay just to accept the fact that someone just gave you a compliment.
Yeah.
Or congratulations on your accomplishment. I'm like, I'll shrug it off and be like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. But no, it is. Just say thank you. Just say thank you. Thank you is a complete sentence. You don't have to. You don't have to add nothing behind it. You don't have to say but anything.
You're right.
You could say thank you and you can move it on.
And move on.
I think that that emotional intelligence can help. Help the man in the household, like I've been mentioning. I think the healthy partnerships, like that goes with that, follows that communication piece and whatnot. I think more people need to sit down and establish what a relationship for them looks like.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think people actually do that. I don't think people ever did that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like saying like, oh, okay, this is what I want out of the relationship. This is what I envision the relationship to look like. What do you envision a relationship to look like? And then they saying that, okay, so what can our relationship look like with both of us saying this? Like, I express how I want my relationship, you express how your relationship. Now, how do we form our relationship together? I think a lot of people look at what other people are doing. Once again, social media is downfall of relationships. I think people look at what other people are doing and like, you're not doing what he does. He takes her to these 5-star restaurants, and he takes her on these trips, and they fly first class. It's like, well, he also makes $300,000 a year, or whatever it may be, or he does XYZ. She also has money. We are not in the same tax bracket, so let's be realistic a little bit, and let's set the expectations for our relationship, and not look at social media as a thing. Yeah, we can get those things one day, but to your point, the equally yoked thing, the mindset of it all, is how you get there. And I think that everyone always says this whole, oh, they're my better half. I feel like they shouldn't be like your better half. They should be a whole person. Mm-hmm. They should be you should be a whole person, they should be a whole person, and then both of y'all wholes should come together to make one bigger whole.
Well, see, when you were talking about the trip and the extravagant trip, and they both make $300,000, that's not a huge sacrifice for them to do those things.
Exactly.
Whereas you're making $60,000 and you buy two plane tickets, do a weekend in Chicago or that's a sacrifice.
That's a sacrifice.
They're not sacrificing anything if they both making $300,000. It's just they're not. And I think we need to look at things for what they really are.
Exactly.
Because some people, you got to put aside a lot of money. I put aside a lot of money for us to do this. Yes. And you acting like it's not shit, but I sacrifice.
Yeah. A weekend away is a weekend away. Mm-hmm. If you are regardless of where you're going. I know people make fun of people going to Miami, but if you can afford to just take somebody to Miami,
and Miami is expensive.
Miami is expensive.
Miami is one margarita $50.
Miami is.
I don't think they even know. That's crazy.
Like if you have never been outside your city limits, going somewhere that is not in your city limits is extravagant. Like it's the communication piece. Is what I'm just saying. Like what we've been saying. But I think there's a lot of factors that fall into how a man can lead a home, and how to build that back up, from what society says a man should be and how he should lead his home. Well, a black man, how he should lead his home and how he should show up for his family and whatnot. I think that it takes a lot of self-reflection from the man to sit down and say, this is what I want to do. And this is how I should lead the family. And then also just saying, like, what can I do to do that? So I think it's having that, once again, the emotional intelligence, the healthy partnership, having some spiritual and mental advisors or whatever it may be. I think it's sitting down and just doing that self-reflection. I think I mentioned that in a previous episode too. And then having the support to do that.
Support is key.
And then having
internal support and external support.
Yes. And like you mentioned earlier, it's your relationship with the person. It's your household. And some things should stay inside of it, but then external forces they should learn certain things about your household externally, to help better you, so you can continue to sustain your household. I mean, some people live in dysfunction, and they don't know that they're living in dysfunction, because that's all they grew up in. So it takes that external factor to say you're living in dysfunction, and how can you fix that? And be willing and wanting to actually fix it is also the key. So I mean, that's really everything that I had. Do you have any?
No, I agree. Great episode, and it's all about communication, relationship, tone, timing, and support. And Black men need that internal support system. And I don't mean within themselves, within that relationship, within that household. They need the support because they're fighting enough battles as soon as they step outside of the house, just being a Black man. External support is great, but the home should be the sanctuary. So when he comes home, he shouldn't have to fight battles after he's been battling.
That should be peaceful.
He needs to come home, feel supported, feel loved, feel respected, and feel appreciated.
Yes, I agree.
So with that, it's been another great episode. You have been tuned in to Black Man Heal. Say how you feel, brother. And thank you for tapping in.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode, brought to you by SOAR. Don't forget to visit our website at soar-nonprofit.org to download the Black Man Heals Workbook, a resource designed to help you dive deeper into your mental health journey with thoughtful prompts and exercises. Embrace the power of vulnerability and keep striving to be the best version of yourself each day. Be sure to join us on our next episode, and until then, take care and stay at peace.